Hello, this is Bill Webb, aka Billy Indiana. Today I'm going to do a 3x3x3 review for Daimyo Senso. This game is sent to me as a review copy from Nathan Lusk at Warrior with a Pen Games. This is a very unique dudes on a map kind of game, so I'm going to teach you a little bit about how it plays, talk to you about 3 things that I enjoy about Daimyo Senso, 3 things that I didn't care for or could see other gamers not enjoying so much, and then give you some recommendations of other games that have something in common with Daimyo Senso. So first, let me tell you what comes in the box of Daimyo Senso. Here is the box, really nice watercolor type art here. You get this really massive board. I'm only showing part of it. You get 8 different sets of cards for 8 different factions, and you get the rule book. And then each of those factions, besides the cards, has these little tokens that you'll put on the map. All right, and we may use some of those in some demonstrations here. Just so you can see the scope of this board, I'm only showing about 2/3 of it here. Move the cards off to the side for a second. Yeah, this goes a whole nother strip down here. And there's a couple things about this board that I want to draw your attention to. One is that on this board at this end down here, you have the honor tracker. And the primary way that you play this game is to achieve honor over 4 seasons or year over a period of 4 years. And you track that honor here. Whoever has the most honor at the end of 4 years wins. You'll also see that by each of these different factions, they all have special abilities. So if you have majority rule in this area, then you get to move 1 extra troop during your move action. If you have majority rule in this area, which is far more provinces, then you get to deploy an extra troop, and during your attack, you get to round up instead of rounding down plus 1 troop, because it's pretty hard to maintain a majority here in this kind of a territory that's got people coming from all sides and lots of territories to control. So they all have these different bonuses, these different awards or abilities depending on if you can maintain that control. Now if we slide this back down, we'll fold this under so you can see the top part of the board, and this is what we'll use to explain portions of the game here. You can also see over here is the sequence of events. So this faction will first use the deploy action, then attack, then move, then attack. This faction will do move, then attack, then deploy and attack. And so you can see all 8 factions have a different sequence of 4 actions. All of them have 1 deploy, 1 move, and 2 attacks. And what you do is you go through the winter. So if you have 8 people playing, this player would deploy, this player would move, this player would attack, and you just kind of go down through till all 8 players have gone. And then you go through the spring, and then the summer, and then the fall, and after the 4 seasons, then you track the honor. Now you can measure the honor. Each person that has a castle under their control, and you can't lose your castle in the main way to play the game. You would get 3 honor for having that castle. Every city, and so on the board you can see the castles like this one have the red roofs, and then the cities have these kind of blue ceilings here, blue roofs like this one, and then the provinces, sorry, the fortresses are green like this one. And so you can look and see, okay, well, I've got 1 castle, 3 points, 2 cities, that's 4 points, and 3 fortresses, that's 3 more points. You add that up, and then you track it on that honor track that I showed you down below. All right, so that's kind of in a nutshell the basic idea of the game. Now, to do the deploy, move, and attack actions, everybody does the same thing. So for attack, if you have troops, and let's put a couple out here just to give you a few examples here. Let's say we've got 4 troops here in this province for that character, and let's say that this player over here has just 2 in this province. All right, so during attack, it tells you right here on the board how you do an attack. You're going to take away 2-to-1 ratio, basically, troops. So if this person's attacking with 4 troops to this person, they would take away both troops. Now if this person only had 3 that were attacking, they could only take 1 away. Okay, and so there's no dice rolling, it's all moving your troops around so that you can gain enough majority in proximate or adjacent provinces so that you can take their troops down, sometimes little by little and sometimes all in one fell swoop, depending on how the numbers line up. Now for the deploy action, you count up how many cities and castles that you have possession of, that you're maintaining control of, and you will get to deploy 1 new troop per city and castle onto any of your cities and castles. And so that's how you get new troops onto the board. And then for the move action, for every fortress and castle that's in a province that you have control of, you are going to get to have that many moves. And so, for instance, if I had 3 different fortresses and castles under my control, I could do 3 moves. So I maybe could go 1, 2, and then 3. And so I could make those moves like that. So every player has the same type of action in terms of their attack, their deploy, and their move. And you're basically just trying to gain honor by controlling castles, cities, and fortresses over a 4-year period where you measure the honor at the end of every year. So that's, like I said, in a nutshell, how you play the game. Now, there are quite a few other versions in the rulebook that are explained. And so in this rulebook, it gives you sort of an overview, quick start to the main part of the game, or the main rules of the game, and gives you some variable setup for when you have less than 8 players. And then it gives you a little bit more detailed setup and explanation here. And then there are general cards, and I'll talk about those in just a second. This gives you a breakdown of the general cards for every different faction. And then there are regional control bonuses, and those are also on this, we've mentioned them before, on the board here. So if this one, if a player has regional control here, they would move +1 troop and get +1 honor at the end of the year if they still maintained majority control there. And it explains those regional bonuses. There's some for deploy, some for move, some for attack, and some for honor. But they're all laid out here on the board as well. And then optional action cards. So the action cards, and I'll show you the cards in a minute, kind of give you these, so you have a deploy card, have an attack, have a move, have an attack if you're this person. And so you can play it to remember what season you're in and just put them down to the table. Now you can play a longer game where in the regular game, like I mentioned, you can't take someone's castle, but in the longer game you can. And you can play it more risk-like, where it's just total domination. You play till somebody controls everything. And then it explains how you use the general and the action cards in that. There's also a solo mode, and here it tells you how to set up the solo mode, and here it gives you the rules for it. And then on the back it lists some of the other games that Warrior with the Pen either has made or is making. So some interesting things there in the rule book. So let's talk about those cards now. So let's look at the cards for this Miyoshi faction, the purple faction, and they're going to use these purple tokens. All right, if in the setup, they're going to put 3 troops in Setsu, they're going to put 2 troops in Harima, and then they're going to put 1 troop in a fortress that's next to something that they have. So they would put 3 troops. Let's see, let me get a few more here. Just walk you through this step here. So 3 troops in Setsu, and that's actually right here where there's a castle. It's kind of on the edge of the board. So Setsu's right here. You can see their castle. So they're going to put 3 troops there. They're going to put 2 in Harima, which is a fortress right there, or a city, sorry, right there. And then they're going to put 1 in a fortress that's in their territory. Now, their castle is in this orange territory, so then they can choose perhaps this fortress to put a troop in. And that's their setup. So on the player aid card, it gives us that. It also, if you flip it over, tells us that for this one, which is this purple row right here, they do attack, deploy, move, attack, just like it says here, attack, deploy, move, attack. So you've got this nice player aid. I do wish that these regional bonuses were also on here, but you can see it on the board. And then you've got the action cards. And so you've got the deploy, move, and the 2 attack cards. So if you are worried about forgetting what season you're on, when you do, for instance, the attack move, you could just play that down and then you're reminded, okay, these are my next 3 moves in this year. Now, another version of play is instead of having to do it in this order, you could all agree to just say, hey, these are my 4 actions per year, but I can do them in any order. One year I might go attack, move, deploy, attack. The next year I might go attack, attack, deploy, move. And so you could play that version of the game too, where you don't have to follow this grid of predefined actions in that order. Now, the last bit of cards that each player has are the general cards, and they're all different. So we've got a different type of specialized action for each faction. And because you have 2 attacks, a deploy, and a move, one of your special actions is attack, a deploy, a move, and then another attack. And just to give you a flavor for it, this one says when attacking a city, destroy 1 enemy troop per attacking troop instead of the usual 1 enemy per 2 attacking troops. So you get a stronger attack when you use that. Now you can only use one of these general cards per year. So in this whole sequence of attack, deploy, move, and attack, that year, I could use that one, but then that's the last one I could use this year. And you play 4 years, so you've got 4 of these general cards. There's a deploy one. It says count all fortresses, castles, and cities in this deployment. Normally it's just cities and castles. Here you get to add in your fortresses as well. Troops must still be deployed on castles and cities. So you just get like a beefed up action, and you can choose one of these per year as your general action. Now, if you play where you can actually take the castle away from another player, and then you are basically adding player elimination, you also then would take some of those general cards and take an action card from the player that you eliminate. So hopefully that makes sense. I didn't go through every little detail of the rules, but hopefully you see a little bit of the unique nature of this game and a bit about how it would play. I will have a link down below, and you can actually order this. He has it for sale on his website, and so I'll have that link down below for you. But now let me get into the review portion. I'm going to talk about 3 things that I do enjoy about Daimyo Senso, 3 things I think either could be improved or maybe I didn't enjoy too much or other players might not enjoy, and then give you some recommendations of other games that have something in common with Daimyo Senso. So first, the things that I enjoy about Daimyo Senso. Number 1, it has a lot of variety built into the game and explained in the rulebook. So you can play player elimination style, more risk-like. You can play like I described, where you can't take the other person's castle, so they're never going to be eliminated. They might be really worn down. You could play where you're choosing the cards and playing attack, deploy, move, and then attack, or you can follow the grid. You can go by just last man standing. You can go by the honor track, solo, all the way from 1 to 8 players. Lots of variety, lots of ways to play this game, so it's very flexible in how it can be used. The second thing I liked is I like that unique action selection mechanism. Whether you use the grid or the cards, you know you're going to get 2 attacks, a deploy, and a move. And if you go by the grid, everybody else knows exactly when you're going to do those actions. So that's a lot of strategy and tactical decision making. Okay, if I do this, I know they're attacking on their next play, and so I better deploy in this way or move my troops in this way. And so it gives you a unique feel to the game. And if you don't like the prescribed, then just use the cards, and then well, he used his action last time, so he still has 1 action left, or she used her deploy last time, so she can't deploy anymore this whole year. And so that's something that is interesting. And then the general cards, that's a unique thing too that I haven't seen in many. I've seen different unique abilities and special cards, but this one, every faction has a unique set of 4 general cards, and they are specified. 2 of them go with your actions, 2 of them, 1 goes with deploy, and 1 goes with move. So you're a little bit limited in how you can use them. So you have to be very strategic, and you can only use 1 per year. So you have to really plan well to maximize the impact of those. So quite a few unique things in this game that really stood out to me. The third thing that I really liked about Daimyo Senso is the rule set's actually pretty simple. I mean, I explained pretty much everything in a few minutes, and everything's on the board. And so you can always refer to what's on the board to remember, how do you attack, how do you deploy, how do you move, and your cards also kind of tell you what's going on. But there are fuller explanations of each of the general cards in the rulebook, so I feel like it's a pretty easy game to get into. It wouldn't take much to teach somebody. And there's also no luck. You're not rolling dice for combat. You know how many troops you have, and you're deciding where you're going to move them, where you're going to deploy them, when you're going to attack, how you're going to attack. So it's a no luck strategy game, and a lot of people really enjoy that kind, and that made it very fun and challenging. So those are the 3 things that I enjoy about Daimyo Senso. Now let me talk about 3 things I either didn't care for, or maybe they could be improved a bit, because after having played with my gaming group, there were some thoughts and reflections they gave as well. So first up, the graphic design looks nice. The board is striking, but it is a little bit hard to see because of where, and the size of the font and where things are. It's a little hard to see which words match with which provinces in certain areas. And then when you put the tokens out, it's a little hard to see, okay, well, was that a castle? And you're constantly moving the tokens around, especially in the smaller provinces where the tokens are going to cover up the picture, because you have to know what's a castle, what's a city, and what's a fortress to be able to figure out how many troops you can deploy, how many troops you can move. And so you're constantly kind of moving them around. So between struggling a little bit with, well, which word goes with which province, and then, okay, was that a castle, or was that a fortress, or was that a city? There are a little bit of graphic design things there that made it a little tricky. Nothing major, but it did stand out to everybody in the group that might be a way to improve it slightly, or it's just going to have to be something that after time, you're going to know where everything is if you play it a lot. The number 2 thing that I noticed, the rulebook does have a lot of information about those general cards, but there are a few things that just weren't clear to me, and I sent several emails back and forth with Nathan, and fortunately he was very generous with his time and helped me understand fully, and maybe it was just me, but there are a few things that just didn't seem clear in the rulebook. And just one small little thing, I would love it if on these player cards if it also had the regional bonuses. Now, I know they're on the board, so it's not a big deal. That's really a nitpick, but I think the rule book could be a little bit better. And then one small little addition, I feel like there's room on these cards to add that, and that might have been nice. The third thing is the solo mode is challenging and it's kind of fun. I played it multiple times, but it's not one, now that I've played it 4 or 5 times, I don't know that I would keep coming back to it because it's really just a puzzle. You're trying to, in 4 years, reach certain goals by taking your troops, and you can actually take over other troops that are just spawned out onto the board according to the way the rule book says. Now, I suppose if you wanted to get creative, you could modify that and give yourself different challenges. And it was fun. I enjoyed it. And occasionally I might pull it out again and try that again. But that's one, I feel like the lifespan of the solo mode might be a bit limited, at least in my opinion. All right, so now what are some recommendations? Other games that I was reminded of when I played Daimyo Senso, or other games that I think if you like this style of game, you might want to check out these two. Now, the first and most obvious thing that stood out to me is this reminds me of Risk. And I usually show board games because I have all the ones I'm going to talk about, but they're all packed up. I'm actually moving this week, so can't show you any. I'll put up maybe a few pictures up here on the screen, but Risk, Castle Risk, Lord of the Rings Risk, Europe Risk, any of the versions you have, that's a dudes on the map, and there's a variety of different rule sets depending on which version you have. So that was the first one, but Risk in almost all the iterations is very luck-based, and this is not. Now, some other games that maybe aren't quite like Risk, but have that area control and that dudes on a map kind of feel that I really enjoy. One is Inish. It's a Matago game, and it has a really unique card play that reminded me of the card play here in Daimyo Senso, as well as area control. And it wasn't just all about the attack. Same as here, the deploy and the move. There's a lot of things you're doing in Inish like Daimyo Senso that are strategic, not just always attack. And so Inish is one you might want to check out. Scythe by Stonemaier Games is another one that I really enjoy. And that, again, has some nice card play with the combat, but combat's not the only thing you're doing. And Scythe is much more involved. Inish is a little bit more involved. Scythe is quite a bit more involved in terms of all the actions and the learning curve to get into it. Both of those would be a bit heavier, but both of them have a really beautiful map and that area control mechanism. Another little small box one that I enjoy is Jiraku, and it also has that Japan theme, and you're moving your troops along this small little board. Again, it's playing cards, but it's actually trick-taking with a unique twist to the trick-taking. And I think I actually have a short board game spotlight of that, so if I can post a link up above if you're curious to find out more about Jiraku, but a nice little small box game that's got area control and card play with a trick-taking element in there. And then the last one, if you want sort of a modern classic, check out El Grande. El Grande also has this nice big map, and you're moving around and gaining area control, and you're choosing your cards to play in a very specific way to decide what order the players are going to go in, and it's got this tower, and you're putting the little meeples inside, so lots of unique things there. So quite a few games that are area control based, dudes on a map kind of feel, card play is important in every one of them. So I thought those might be ones you could check out if you like this style of game. So I hope this was helpful for you to learn more about Daimyo Senso. Again, thanks to Nathan for sending me this review copy and giving me a chance to play it. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments below. If you did enjoy the video, I'd love it if you give it a thumbs up, and it'd be terrific if you'd choose to subscribe to the channel. And as always, thanks for watching. This is Billy Indiana, signing off.